Welcome to the October 16 Eclipse OpenJ9 community call. As usual, we'll open things up for any community discussion or questions right off the bat. So I'll pause here for a minute for anyone who wants to jump in. Hung, are you ready to give the shared classes cache layers lightning talk?
Yes.
Okay, if you want to, yes, I will stop sharing and you can take over.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, we're seeing the slides and the layout on the side there.
Okay. So I will talk about the new OpenJ9 feature called multi-layer shared class cache. So this feature is enabled in OpenJ9 0.17 release. So let's get started. We're doing this feature mainly for running OpenJ9 inside Docker, but this feature is also enabled outside Docker. So we don't have any restriction whether you're running J9 VM inside Docker or outside Docker. So here's an example of Docker layers. So a Docker container is actually a readable and writable image, a layer built on top of a bunch of read-only layers. So a layer is a delta of change you made on an existing Docker image. So in this example, the user is running in a day trader Docker image, and the top layer is the day trader layer. All the layer below is a read-only. So the user is running day trader on Open Liberty using OpenJ9 Java VM, running on Ubuntu. So when we are building the OpenJ9 image, so let's say we enable shared class cache in the OpenJ9 layer. So the J9 classes will be stored into the default shared class cache, so that anything built on top of this OpenJ9 image will benefit from the shared class cache in the startup performance. So when we are building Open Liberty on top of OpenJ9, when we turn on the shared class cache, the JVM will load J9 classes from the default shared class cache in the lower OpenJ9 layer, and add additional Liberty classes to the shared class cache. And this will trigger the Docker's copy on write mechanism. So Docker handles any modification to the lower read-only layer by copy on write mechanism, which means that the Docker will copy the file to be modified to the top read-write layer, and make the modification happen in the copied version. So in this case, the shared class cache in the lower OpenJ9 layer will be copied to the top Open Liberty layer, and then the Liberty classes will be added to the shared class cache. As you can see, now we have duplicated data. So we have two copies of OpenJ9 classes here in this image. So when we continue to build the day trader layer, the same thing happens again. So whole class cache will begin to the top read-write layer, and now we have 3 copy of J9 classes here and 2 copy of Liberty classes. So So this results in two things. One is that the Docker image will have a larger footprint than it should be because of the duplicated data. And the second thing is that a larger Docker image will result in slower pulling and pushing of the image because a larger amount of data needs to be transferred over the net. So let's go back to a previous step. So when we are building the Open Liberty layer, we cannot write into a lower layer because we want to avoid the data duplication, which means that we need to write the Liberty classes to somewhere else, which is another shared class cache in the top read-write layer. So in this way, the shared class cache also becomes layered. So it's the same to Docker layers. So only the top layer shared class cache can be readable and writable. All the lower layer shared class cache are read-only. So when we are building the day trader layer, we create a new layer shared class cache in the top layer. So here's the layer 2 cache, and the day trader classes are added in the new layer shared class cache. So there's no duplication of J9 class and Liberty classes in the top layer. So we will avoid the Docker copy on write mechanism. So this means that now the JVM is able to start up multiple shared class caches. So, and the same to Docker layers. The shared class cache is built on top of all its lower layers, and the cache knows about all its lower layer caches, and it doesn't know about the upper layers. And we also allow cross-cache data references. So cache can reference data in any of its lower layers, and only the top layer cache in this example, layer 2, is readable and writable. All the lower layers are read-only. It's the same to Docker layers. So as all the lower layers are read-only, so they are less likely to be corrupted. So yeah, we have introduced a bunch of new command line options to work with the multi-layer shared class cache. And the first one is layer equals. So you can use this option to specify a top shared class layer number. So if the specified layer doesn't exist, we will create a new layer for you. So the second option is a create layer. So it's pretty simple. It'll always create a new shared cache layer. So you can use either of these two command options to create a new shared class layer. The difference is that when you have multiple JVMs in a race condition to create layers, you'd better use the first option because it'll always ensure that only one new layer is created. So we also add two command line utility option to multi-layer cache, which is print top layer stats. So for example, if you are running Open Liberty and you want to see how many Liberty classes are stored in the shared class cache, you can use print top layer stats equals ROM class on the Liberty layer. It'll show all the ROM classes in the top Liberty layers. So the last one is destroy all layers. So you can use this option to destroy all shared class cache layers. So yeah, existing command line option can be also used on multi-layer shared caches. So print stats will give you cache statistics from all layers. So if you want to see all the ROM class or LT methods in the shared class cache from all layers, you can use print stats equals ROM class plus AOT. It'll give you all the AOT and ROM class entries in all layers. So destroy. So destroy this option will by default destroy the top layer cache only. So yeah, you can use destroy all layers to destroy everything, and destroy to only delete the top layer cache. So yeah, there are also new JCL, JVM, TI APIs to work with multi-layer shared class cache. And there are also new DDR commands to debug on multi-layer shared class cache. So let's go through an example on how to use this this new command line options. So so here I create a shared class cache with the name demo and put it under temp directory. So by default the cache layer is 0. So if you run list all caches, you will find the new cache I just created, and the cache layer will show up. It's 0 by default. So then you can use create layer to create a new shared class cache layer, and you can see that data from the layer 0 cache is being loaded, and we're storing new data, which will be stored into the top layer cache. In this case, it's layer 1 cache. So if you run list all caches, you will see 2 caches here. One is layer 1, and the other is layer 0. So yeah, you can check the cache statistics. So here I'm running print stats. It'll give you a summary information about the top layer. So like the top layer cache size, the free bytes in the cache size, and the second section here will give you some statistics for all layers. So like a number of ROM classes and the number of AOT methods. So those numbers are from all layers, from layer 0 and layer 1 in this case. So this is what it looks like when you run print top layer stats. So all those numbers are from the top layer. So layer 1 here. So yeah, you can see the ROM class, AOT, and URLs. Those numbers are from top layer only. So destroy the cache. Yeah, when you're done, you can use destroy all layers to destroy everything. Yeah, so references. If you're interested in more of the implementation details and the design details, you can go to the OpenJ9 issue 5480. There are more details there, and we also have documentations and examples on how to use those new command line options. So, thank you.
Thanks, Hung.
Yeah.
So one question is, when can I start using this? Which release of OpenJ9 includes it?
0.17.
Okay, so the release that's just come out as of last night. So anyone looking to download a build.
Yeah.
Any questions from others?
Yeah. Any more questions?
Yeah, that's very cool. Do we expect what drove the requirements for this, and how do you expect this to be most leveraged?
We're mainly doing this for the background story is that there are users running OpenJ9 on Dockers. They are building their Docker image with shared class turned on. They find that their Docker image size become extremely big because of the duplicated shared class cache there. So this feature will help them reduce their Docker image size to the to a much smaller size.
Yeah, that's great. Great work.
Thank you. So any more questions? So I will stop sharing.
One other question for you, Hung.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes we invalidate data in a cache, either methods or classes. How do we handle that when you want to invalidate data in a lower layer of the cache?
For classes, I think we have a copy of the class path in the top layer. So when we detect some change in the class path, we will invalidate that class path, and any class loaded from that class path won't be returned from the shared class cache if they are out of date.
Okay. Makes sense. Right. Thank you very much. I'll start sharing the agenda again. So we'll take a quick look now at the user raised issues. There was an issue raised yesterday about the AIX build and putting DLLs at the same place where we want to put the heap for compressed runs. So I think that's being looked at. The crash onto Capo has been investigated, and I believe we understand the root cause, and there may even be a fix open for that at OpenJ or at OMR as it's in the base components. The Apache Flink issue is somewhere where we're not accepting the capital T unit. Pete, had you started a PR for that?
I didn't create a PR. I actually created all the changes, but we were asking the person who raised the issue to look at fixing it.
Okay. We'll continue to follow up on that one then. Otherwise, the rest of these are older issues. Close that and come back to the agenda. Andrew, have you had a chance to update the graphs here?
Yeah, they're all uploaded.
Okay. Our percentage of the share seems to be declining.
Yeah. Which one are we looking at? 8. Well, in fact, all of them. Although, you know, it is just a wiggle. And I think we do have to bear in mind that some of these wiggles are due to certain CI environments pulling stuff at varying cycles. So, and not necessarily just ours.
Okay.
I mean, the variance on, if we look at the top one, I guess, you know, the variance is between about 2.96% and 3.04%. So it is quite small, really.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's something we should be thinking about, though, as a community, how to make sure those lines are going in the other direction.
Yeah.
I'm much happier to see our percentage of the share going up.
Yeah. I mean, a general point of view on that, actually. So I went to JCon Dusseldorf last month and did the Billy's OpenJ9 talk. And the general interest and I think it was more, there's just sort of interest, but a bit more sort of apathy, in that they're sort of happy with where they are. And they sort of need more of an incentive to move,
Yep.
Migration is an effort, is sort of the impression I got. Although this was a handful of about 30 people max, so bear that in mind. I feel as though, I mean, I don't get out enough to these conferences. I feel as though if there's more of a push to go to more conferences, that would help. That's my 3 cents.
That meets some or matches some of the feedback we've gotten through other channels as well, that it's great technology, but we have to get the message out more broadly so more people are aware of it. Conferences are definitely one way to do that. So if there are people either on this call or watching the YouTube clip that would be interested in giving talks about or including OpenJ9, as a community, we're very open to helping with that, and helping debug any issues or make sure you're getting the best results for what you want to show. One of the great ways to do that is to reach out to us through Slack.
I mean, just one thought, because I went to JCon Dusseldorf because Steve Paul couldn't, so I was sort of taking over what he was going to present. And my actual knowledge of OpenJ9 is sort of on the outskirts, as it were. But in doing it, I learned quite a bit, including about the shared classes stuff, which was just talked about. And obviously a lot of you guys there have all that knowledge, and if we're able to have perhaps a set of decks that people can learn and take and leverage and present themselves, might help, if that might already exist. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, that having a set of standard decks that people can use for presenting on OpenJ9.
Yeah,
definitely help. Yep. I know that inside IBM there are a number of those decks that can be shared. I know that we've made them publicly available.
Right. Because Steve keeps mentioning submit to these conferences, and I've submitted a few and generally got rejections because they're obviously not of necessary interest, depending on the subject. But if we can get the right subjects, the right presentations, and just get more traction on that, might help.
I think the message goes more broadly than just conferences, though. It's blog posts on features like this. It's blog posts on how using OpenJ9 has helped solve a particular problem that you've been running into. I believe there was a recent post on OpenJ9 and Jenkins and the benefits you get there. So I think that's the kind of information we need to help disseminate, whether it's through blog posts or Twitter or conference talks or whatever it may be. But it's showing how OpenJ9 helps solve the problems that developers are having.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
All right. It's definitely an area that myself and there are many others in the community are happy to help push forward if people have ideas or need some help there. Just being a little bit cognizant of time, let's jump to the discussion of the roadmap. We've been dragging along the 0.15 release because that's where we started talking about the notarization work on Mac. Do we have an update on where that's at? Has that been fixed for the most recent release?
Data I've heard is that George is actively working on it. He messaged me this morning. He had a build he was running tests against, and he was working through a couple of the changes that he was seeing. They don't appear to be related to his change. So I expect that he should be putting an update in that thread that Jason from Elastic has.
So we got an update from this morning, our time, speaking to George and Martin. George is still working on it, as you say. He's hopefully of getting close to something that works. I think we concluded that we'd like to put out the Mac without the localization fix for this release, and if he gets a solution, we'll put out a Delta release with that in it. So that was where we left it this morning. One complication is that he's having to change the OpenJDK make files, which is likely to impact the OpenJ9 side of that as well. So we're likely to have some code changes to do to affect what he's done. So again, we were wary of not producing a Mac for a while after the other platforms. So.
Yeah. And then the other note is that the work he's testing today is actually for JDK 8. He's starting with that and then going to verify that is working as expected because it's the simpler change, and then do the later releases or the later versions.
Yes, that's another excellent point. Well remembered.
So are you just taking a note on that notarization? Okay. All right. Then there was an issue with the AIX machines being broken when we were looking at doing JDK 13. Have the AIX machines been fixed at this point?
Are we talking about AIX machines at Adopt?
Yes.
I don't know specifically for 13. I know I've successfully built 11 and 8 today. I had one issue with resources running out on one of them, but I've resubmitted it. So we haven't gotten around to 13 again just yet because of the fact that the release tag hasn't been published by Oracle yet. So I'm sorry, I don't have an update on that.
So I'll just, thank you for opening it. I was just trying to remember what those issues were. Yes, so I can't remember now. Stuart and I did resolve. So there was the temp file leakage issue, which is actually a known issue, as Adam Brousseau points out. And Stuart put in, I mean, it's a known bug with Bash, I think, or something like that. So he's put in a script to prune the temp file leakage, which is similar to one Adam has got, I think, on HYC runtimes. And the other issue, what was that? That was to get access to look at the temp file issue, so that's the same thing.
Okay, that's good to hear. Then as we look at 017, we should have been releasing this week, I believe.
Simon's working through that at the moment.
Yeah, so we've kicked off the builds for 8 and 11. I've had a couple of build failures and a number of test failures that I've started going through. For JDK 13, though, there still isn't a tag appeared at the Mercurial site to suggest that the code level is there. So,
yes, Oracle have either forgotten or conveniently forgotten to push it. I don't know what's going on there. I saw one of the Red Hat guys pinged Rob McKenna on the mail list early this morning to when they were going to push it upstream. No responses yet.
Okay. It's just interesting that Oracle has pushed both their Oracle and OpenJDK builds, and I believe,
Yeah, they've done theirs. So,
I believe Azul has pushed their builds as well. So,
have they? How have they managed that? The 13?
oh, it looked like 13.1 builds were available there. So,
I don't understand how they've got that source. That's interesting.
something we'll have to see what we can do differently, or see how they've been able to do it in the future.
Well, they've got it not from OpenJDK, I would suggest.
Yeah.
I would be cautious about determining where they got that from. We'll have to do some investigation.
Yeah.
All right, and then just a reminder that the 0.18 release, the code split for that will be coming up in mid-December. So we need to be paying attention to items in that list and what we need to clear out for that release. Just being cognizant of the time, we're sort of down to the last 5 minutes. So we'll skip along and ask for if there's any relevant update on Adopt.
I think we've talked about most items. I'll just add additionally, there's put the issue 119, which is the release. If you need to track how it's going, you can use that one. We're had a discussion today also about the multiple Docker base images, official ones, and how to extend testing for those. So that will be work that will be happening very soon. We got a demo of the Azure cloud set up and run because we're talking about whether or not we can leverage some of that for the Adopt infrastructure. I think there'll be a lot more discussions before anything closes on that one. And I don't have any time zone updater stuff. I was going to ask Simon or Andrew for whether that works.
Yeah, unfortunately, Dave's been off sick. I'm hoping he's going to be in tomorrow to take us through where he is.
So that's it for the Adopt update, Dan.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the moving OpenJ9, or this was more about the contributor teams bug, I haven't seen any further updates there, especially in light of the fact that GitHub has enabled anyone who comments to be assigned to an issue. We should probably think about whether this still needs to be on our agenda for something that we track. Or if that's met all the things that we need. Adam, do you have an update on the machines?
Sure, there's nothing really to update other than we added BootJDK 13 to all the machines, with the exception of AX. There's no OpenJ9 build for 13 on AX, so we tried to build a hotspot one, but there crashes during Java version, so I opened a issue at Adopt for that.
All right. I don't see Sue on the call, so I guess no update there yet. Is there any other business that people want to bring up? All right, then. Thank you, everybody, and we'll meet again in a few weeks, I guess. The 23rd.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.